You have probably heard someone say, just bite the bullet. Maybe it was about making a hard phone call, paying a painful bill, going to the dentist, or finally doing something you had been avoiding. But if you stop and really hear the phrase, it is a strange thing to say. Bite the bullet. Why would anyone bite down on a piece of metal, and how did that image become a normal way to talk about courage, pain, and difficult choices? The most popular explanation is brutal. People often say the phrase comes from old battlefield surgery, when wounded soldiers had to bite down on a bullet during painful treatment. It is easy to picture. A soldier, a wound, no modern pain medicine, no easy way out, but old sayings are rarely as clean as the stories attached to them. I'm Earl, the creator of Everyday Sayings and Origins. To keep each episode consistent, I use my digital likeness. Now, back to the story. Today, bite the bullet means to face something unpleasant because it has to be done. It does not mean you like it. It means you stop putting it off, accept the discomfort, and move forward anyway. You might bite the bullet before paying a bill you have ignored. You might bite the bullet before making an apology. You might bite the bullet before a medical appointment, a hard decision, or a conversation you already know will be uncomfortable. So the phrase is really about a certain kind of courage. Not loud courage, not heroic courage. The quiet kind. The kind where part of you wants to delay the moment, but another part knows delay will only make it worse. That is why the phrase still works. It gives discomfort a shape. Instead of saying, I am going to do something difficult, the phrase gives you a sharper picture. A person bracing for pain. A person holding still. A person forcing themselves through a moment they would rather avoid. The famous story takes us to a rougher world. Picture a wounded soldier far from a clean hospital. There are no modern tools nearby. There is no safe, simple way to block the pain. Someone has to act fast. In that story, the soldier is given something hard to bite down on. Maybe leather, maybe a stick, maybe a strap. Or in the version people remember most, a bullet. The idea is simple and terrible. Bite down, hold still, endure it. The story sounds believable because bullets were common around soldiers. They were small, hard, and nearby. The phrase also has the sound of a rough order. No comfort, no long explanation. Just bite the bullet and survive. That is probably why this version spread so easily. It gives people one strong image, and strong images are easier to remember than complicated history. But the story starts to get less certain when we ask a simple question. Was a bullet really the thing people usually bit down on? There is good reason to believe people in pain sometimes bit down on something. That part makes sense. People clench their teeth under stress even today, but the exact bullet part is harder to prove. A bullet is small. It is hard. It could damage teeth. In many real situations, leather, cloth, or wood would have made more sense. That does not mean the battlefield story is impossible. It means we should be careful with it. The phrase may come from the real human act of biting down through pain, while the bullet became the most dramatic version of that act. That is how many sayings grow. A phrase begins with a picture. People repeat it. The picture gets sharper. The story gets easier to tell. And after enough time, the neat version becomes the version everyone remembers. That does not always make the story false, but it can make it incomplete. With bite the bullet, the important part may not be the bullet itself. The important part may be the act of biting down. That is a natural human response to pain, pressure, fear, or stress. You may have done it without thinking. You clench your jaw. You press your teeth together. You try to keep your face still. You hold something in because you do not want the pain, fear, or anger to come out. That body reaction is old. It is simple. And it does not need a battlefield to make sense. The phrase seems to become more common in the 1800s. That period matters because English has many old phrases that describe courage through the body. People did not only say, be brave. They used physical images. Keep a stiff upper lip. Stand your ground. Take it on the chin. Bite the bullet. Each phrase gives courage a movement. Your lip stays still. Your feet stay planted. Your chin takes the hit. Your teeth clamp down. These are quick images of self-control. They turn an inner decision into something visible. That is one reason bite the bullet lasted. It does not sound soft. It does not sound polite. It sounds like a person has reached the point where the decision is already made. That feeling carried the phrase beyond war, wounds, and old medicine. At some point, the bullet no longer had to be real. It became a symbol for whatever hard thing was waiting. A painful talk, a debt, a repair bill, a job change, a truth you do not want to say out loud. The phrase moved from physical pain to emotional pressure. That shift is what keeps old sayings alive. A phrase survives when people can carry it into new situations. If it stays trapped in one old setting, it eventually fades. But if the image still fits modern life, people keep using it. That is what happened here. Most people today are not thinking about battlefield surgery when they say, bite the bullet. They are thinking about the moment before doing something unpleasant. That moment is still familiar. You know what needs to be done. You know avoiding it will not fix it. You know the only way forward is through the uncomfortable part. That is where the phrase gets its power. It does not tell you the hard thing will be easy. It does not promise the pain will disappear. It simply says there are moments when waiting makes the problem heavier. So you brace yourself and act. There is also a useful difference between saying be brave and saying bite the bullet. Be brave sounds like advice. Bite the bullet sounds like action. It does not ask you to feel fearless. It assumes you are not fearless. It assumes the moment is uncomfortable. And that is exactly why the phrase works. That may be why people still reach for it. It gives permission to admit the difficulty without surrendering to it. You can hate the task and still do it. You can dread the conversation and still have it. You can dislike the cost, the pain, or the effort and still move forward. The phrase holds both ideas at the same time. This is hard, and I am doing it anyway. So what can we say with confidence? We can say bite the bullet means facing something unpleasant with resolve. We can say it is tied to the image of biting down to endure pain. We can say the famous soldier story is memorable and widely repeated. But we should be careful about treating the bullet story as the one proven source. The origin may be part history, part image, and part storytelling. And honestly, that makes the phrase more interesting. It shows how language often works. People do not always preserve the exact details. They preserve the image that feels true. The phrase survived because everyone understands that small pause before pain, the breath before the hard call, the silence before the apology. The moment before the bill gets paid, the truth gets spoken, or the decision becomes real. That is the moment bite the bullet captures. Maybe the bullet was real in some cases. Maybe it was one version of a broader habit. Maybe the story became sharper as it passed from person to person. But the feeling behind it never changed. Some sayings fade because the world that created them disappears. This one stayed because people never stopped facing hard moments. The bullet became a metaphor. The bite became a symbol. And the phrase became a way to say something almost everyone understands. So why do we say bite the bullet? Because sometimes the hard thing does not go away just because we avoid it. Sometimes the only way past pain is through it. You brace yourself, you accept the moment, and you do what has to be done. If you enjoyed discovering the story behind this everyday saying, subscribe to Everyday Sayings and Origins. Each episode uncovers the hidden history behind the words, phrases, rhymes, and traditions we use without thinking. I'm Earl. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next origin. Peace.